Hey everybody, it's Hater, and welcome back to Destiny 2 Beyond Light. In this video, we're going to be talking about the high value targets that are on Europa that you can find. If you've played through the story, then you've already figured out that there are these brigs that'll just be roaming the map that'll one-shot you, and sometimes even these technocrats that'll also do the same thing. Those are going to be the high value targets you're going to be looking for on Europa's surface. The reason you want to kill these guys is because they will drop the gear that Varix has been giving you while you were doing the story, like the Hailing Confusion Pulse Rifle or the Bone Chiller Shotgun. Another thing to keep in mind is that these ads are going to be 1250. You do need to be about 1230 power with your artifact to even fight them. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Before you even begin fighting the high value targets on Europa, you got to make sure that you finish the Aftermath story mission from Varix and unlock the Empire hunts, because you won't have weapons like the LMG or the fusion rifle be added to the Brig's loot pool until you've already collected them. So make sure you spend his currency and get those done. So what's coming on the screen now is the route I take with the 8 spawn locations for all the high value targets. The reason we don't go to the Assyrian Abyss is because there's no high value targets over there that will drop Varix's loot table. The only thing over there are going to be Stormguard Minotaurs that are just the same thing as they are in Nessus. So there's only a few issues with this farm that I know of, and one of them is sometimes the high value targets don't even spawn for like a good 5 to 10, maybe even 15 minutes if you're really unlucky. The reason behind that is because there's other things that get taken into account. One of them is the caged enemy with the Minotaur. The other one is like enemies moving against each other and public events. Those ones are specifically tied to the Cadmus Ridge. The other one over at the Eventide Ruins is the skiff that's being locked down. Enemies moving against each other there, and even people doing public events. The storm is also a huge factor into this because sometimes a enemy will spawn in the bunker where it's trying to hide away, and that can easily take up like 5 to 10 minutes of your time. Now for the loadout that I ran while doing this. First things first, I ran Izanagi's with the Catalyst. This is really good because once you break that metal faceplate off of the brig, you can rack the round into it and it just does so much damage that it almost one-shots it. Pretty much after this point, you can bring whatever you want. I ran Gnawing Hunger, the Thermal Erosion LMG, Nizric's Sin, and the new Shadebringer Super. As long as you bring something that can do enough damage to break the metal faceplate off of the break, you're pretty much golden. And then if you find the Technocrat, you don't even need to bring a whole lot because he's just super easy to kill. The only difference is that he's rarer. So something that I didn't realize until later is that you can farm these chests just like you could in Menagerie before it got hotfixed. Basically what I mean by that is you could exit the loading zone and then come back and you can get the chest again for double rewards. Sometimes even triple if you're close enough to the load zone. So we have the map coming up on the screen again. This time you'll notice I have pink lines and black boxes and blue lines going all over the map. So each area I have split in half, and whatever blue line is closer is the loading zone you want to take for where that high value target is. So say if you're on Cadmus Ridge and you just hit the load zone over by Varix and the high value target's there, you want to go back to Varix. The other thing are the ones that are highlighted in black boxes. Those ones are the ones that you can hit almost 3 times if you have a fast enough Sparrow. The Sparrow you want to bring for this is going to be the one that you got from Scourge of the Past. You unfortunately can't get it right now as of recording this because you can't get the currency to buy it back if you haven't already obtained it. Otherwise, your Sparrow isn't going to catch the respawn timer on the chest, so it'll despawn before you can go for the 3rd hit. And sometimes even over by the Eventide Ruins, you're only going to hit the chest once if it's too far out. As for the weapons, here are some of the god rolls you want to be looking for when you're getting them. First off is going to be the Biting Wind's Bow. The roll you're going to be looking for this bow is going to be Killing Wind Swashbuckler or Killing Wind Explosive Head. You could also take Rapid Hit or Quick Draw on the first slot, even moving target's good. This is a really nice bow, and it's the first bow I think that can roll Killing Wind besides the Slab from Season of Arrivals, so I really recommend that you pick it up if you want it. Next up is going to be the Hailing Confusion Pulse Rifle. If anyone remembers, there was a pulse rifle from Forsaken, I believe, called the Claws of the Wolf that you got from Iron Banner. This was the only pulse rifle in the game at the time that could roll full auto and outlaw on the same gun. But now you can roll it on an adaptive frame kinetic pulse rifle, which is pretty insane. The rolls I recommend looking for when you're getting this gun is Hammerforge or Full Bore with high cal rounds or ricochet rounds, outlaw, full auto, or Wellspring. The reason you would want Wellspring on this gun is because it allows you to get all your abilities up, and it's like a better version of Demolitionist, and I highly recommend you get it. Next up is going to be the Coriolis Fusion Rifle. The interesting thing about this fusion rifle is that it is a one of a kind that it fires its beam horizontally and not vertically, which makes it kind of hard to use in PvP, but makes it a monster in PvE. Because now when you shoot it, like a normal fusion rifle, it would hit the floor and then probably hit the enemy, unless you're aiming for like their chest, and it would like ramp up. But now if it just goes in the horizontal line, and you're gonna hit almost everything on the enemy. And when it comes to even bigger targets like knights and ogres, you're just gonna rip and tear right through them on one hit. This is also the only fusion rifle in the game that can roll Killing Wind. There's a few rolls I would recommend that you go for this weapon when you're looking for PvE. You would definitely want to look for like Killing Wind or Feeding Frenzy in the first slot, and then One for All. The new perk One for All makes it where if you hit 3 separate targets, you're going to gain a 10-second damage bonus that ramps up really hard. I'll be doing a video on this gun to better explain One for All, but for now, let's look at the next roll for it. The other role that I would really recommend you look for is of course Killing Wind and Feeding Frenzy again, but instead you get Rangefinder if you want to look for this in PvP. As I said earlier, I don't really recommend you use this gun in PvP just because it has a horizontal shot and it's harder to hit some people in PvP. Because most of the time when you're using a fusion rifle, you'll be aiming at their feet and it will just climb up and one-shot them. That's basically a rule of thumb as you would use if you were using like Aaron Till or something like that. Fourth up is going to be the Bone Chiller Shotgun. A few notes about the shotgun is that it is a slug shot, so you have to keep in mind that it only shoots one long pellet and it's easy to miss. This is also a shotgun that's one of a kind because it can roll Demolitionist, which not many weapons can in the current loot pool roll unless you already have some of the 7th Seraph guns or anything older that is sunsetted. So if you need a good replacement for a Demolitionist shotgun, this is the way to go. This shotgun can also come with dual loader, which it'll load 2 shots at the cost of reload speed, which is pretty good if you take into consideration of like Well of Radiance, Lunafaction Warlocks, or just reload speed perks in general. It can also roll One for All, just like the Coriolis. As for the rolls on the shotgun, I would recommend getting pretty much anything that can increase its range in the barrel. Accurized rounds is good, but you would also want to go for aggressive because this is a 65 RPM shotgun, so it shoots really slow. In the first perk slot, I would recommend going for Lead for Gold or maybe even Dual Loader. There's not really many good perks you can get in this one. And for the final slot, you have Demolitionist, Slideways, One for All, or Opening Shot. Those 4 are pretty solid. You don't really want to take Dragonfly, and you don't really want Threat Detector. Second to last is going to be the Thermal Erosion LMG. This is a rapid fire LMG, so it has a higher mag, lower damage, but higher RPM. This is also another weapon that can roll Wellspring, which is really good for mobbing. But as for rolls, you mainly want to look for a range increasing barrel. Of course, you want to go for high caliber rounds or Ricochet, both are really good. As for the first perk slot, you definitely want to go for Quick Draw or Killing Wind. And for the final slot, the best here are going to be Demolitionist, Wellspring, Dynamic Sway, and Tap the Trigger. You can definitely take Demolitionist on this LMG, but if you can pull Wellspring, Wellspring is just better. And Dynamic Sway, Tap the Trigger are for PvP loadouts. Last but not least, we have the Sub-Zero Salvo, which is the rocket launcher. Something very interesting is this is the only rocket launcher in the game that I know of can roll Killing Wind, which for a rocket launcher really isn't that great because you're only going to be shooting the one shot and then reloading. As for the rolls, we're going to be looking for Quick or Hard Launch, Impact Casing or Black Powder, Quick Draw with Cluster Bombs, or Chain Reaction. Chain Reaction is the new perk where if you shoot the rocket at an ad, it's going to blow up like Bloom on Top Tree Nova Bomb. So this is going to be really good for mobbing if you pull that. It's really a toss-up when it comes to Cluster or Chain Reaction. Both are really good and I would recommend. One final thing before I let you guys go, some of the weapons aren't in the loot pool yet as of recording this, like the Arctic Haze and the High Albedo Sidearm. But that's going to cover it for today, guys. You want to catch me live over at Twitch, that'll be in the description. I'm live literally every day besides Saturdays. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.